Hey guys, welcome back. How are you doing? Ready for another incredible story?
We always do.
So switch on your antennas and get ready to dive into Vincent Van Gogh's colourful world.
Today, we are learning about the famous painter Vincent van Gogh. Why do you need to know about Van Gogh's biography and Van Gogh's paintings? Because his story is about someone driven to seek his calling in the world, who was not afraid to change path until he found the right one for him. Because Van Gogh's heart shows someone who poured his heart into his passion, embracing different influences and following the whirlwind of his emotion while searching for a personal style. Vincent van Gogh was born in Groot-Zunde, Netherlands, on the 30th of March in 1853. Although he enjoyed drawing from a very young age, it took him many different jobs and years to realize he wanted to be an artist. Before taking up art professionally, he had various occupations, like being an art dealer, following the career of some family members, a bookseller, and a language teacher. Did you know that he was able to speak and write Dutch, English, and French? He then became a lay preacher and did some missionary work, influenced by his dad, who was a pastor. Van Gogh was 27 when he decided to dedicate himself entirely to art. His first formal art education was at the School of the Hague, where he was influenced by realist painters. These realist painters used to paint very accurate and detailed images of life and its problems, trying to reproduce it as much closer to reality as possible. This experience led him to use dark colors such as brown and dark green and paint peasants, workers, and the lives of ordinary people. Among Vincent van Gogh's paintings during this early time of his career, we can find the famous Potato Eaters. Here, he depicted the harsh reality of the country life. So he gave the peasants coarse faces and bony working hands. He wanted to show in this way that they have tilled the earth themselves with these hands they are putting in the dish, that they have thus honestly earned their food. The message of the painting was more important to Van Gogh than corrected anatomy or technical perfection, missing details for which he was highly criticized at the time. In 1886 he moved to Paris on his brother Steele's advice, where he learned about a new style of painting, the Impressionism. Impressionist painters such as Monet, Degas and Pissarro were not trying to paint a reflection of real life, but an impression of what the person, light, object or landscape looked like to them. And that is why they were called Impressionists. Influenced by these artists, Vincent began using vibrant colors on his paintings, with little strokes, not mixing them together. He did this to make his paintings look spontaneous and lively, just like how the Impressionist artists wanted. They wanted to quickly show what they saw in a scene at first glance, like a snapshot. He painted everyday subjects from the street or the café of Paris, as well as the countryside. His use of brighter colors was also influenced by Japanese ukiyo-e, a type of woodblock prints in which artists use carved wooden blocks to press design on papers, showing everyday life, landscapes, and tales from history. During this time, Van Gogh also painted many portraits. Since he was often alone and didn't have money to pay models, he painted over 35 self-portraits. Some show him with a bandage ear. I'll tell you why in a bit. In 1888, seeking for vibrant colors and peace from the city, he moved to Arles, in the south of France. Famous Van Gogh paintings of this period are The Orchards, a series of 14 joyous works celebrating the arrival of springs. Wheat Fields, which caught his attention during his excursion around Arles. During this time, Van Gogh's painting with intensity and emotions, sometimes applying the paint directly onto the canvas from the tube, leaving the paint thick with rough brushstrokes, which, as you can imagine, was taking a long time to dry. When he moved to Arles, he hoped to create an artist community. His idea was to stop his loneliness and be surrounded by a circle of people with the same passion of art. He rented out a yellow house and invited his friend, artist Paul Gauguin to join him. Van Gogh's sunflowers were painted to decorate the walls in the house while waiting for Gauguin to arrive. Do you know that Vincent van Gogh's famous sunflowers were painted in 2 series? The first one in Paris, depicting flowers lying on the ground, and the second one in Arles, where the sunflowers were arranged in a vase and painted by Van Gogh in the early morning light. In Arles, the light and the sunshine were at its best, and yellow became Vincent's favorite color. To demonstrate that it was possible to create an image with numerous variations of a single color, the sunflower painter used only 3 shades of yellow to paint his flowers, and nothing else. Van Gogh and Gauguin often argue about their view of art. Paul Gauguin liked to paint from memories, while Vincent wanted to paint from what he saw. One day, after a particular intense disagreement, Gauguin left, and Vincent, who struggled with his mood disorders since youth and had difficulties working on his emotion, in a fit of madness, cut off a piece of his left ear. Now you can understand why, in some of his portraits, he has a bandage around his ear, which looks like the right one. Can you guess why? Yes, because he painted himself in the mirror. After this episode, Van Gogh admitted himself to Saint Paul de Moselle, a psychiatric hospital in Saint-Remy. While there, he kept painting and produced some incredible works looking outside the bar of his window, in the asylum, such as another series of Whitfield's studies of the hospital interiors and gardens. Roses, lilacs, and irises are amongst the flowers he painted the most. During his short daily walks, he was enchanted by the cypresses and olive tree that will appear on many of his canvases. Amongst famous Van Gogh's paintings of this period, there is the famous Starry Night. To be able to paint it, he used a wide brim hat on which he placed candles to see his canvas. "I dream my paintings, and I paint my dreams," Vincent used to say. Can you imagine him in his room, staring outside of his window at night, mesmerized by those little flames in the sky, which provoke in him a whirlwind of emotion that he reproduced with thrilling brushstrokes? Unfortunately, Vincent neglected his health, eating poorly and smoking a lot. His mental and physical health worsened, and he didn't want to live anymore. He wasn't very old when he died on the 29th of July in 1890. Known mainly as the sunflower painter, it has to be mentioned that Van Gogh created over 850 paintings and nearly 300 works on papers. Did you know that of all those pieces of art, he sold only one? The Red Vineyards. Van Gogh wasn't famous during his life, but is now considered one of the greatest artists of his time. His brother Theo supported him throughout his career, loaning him money and trying to sell his works in the art gallery he used to work in, even if with no luck. Van Gogh was very poor, and among the most curious facts to know about him is that before starting to paint, he used to put balls of walls close to each other to see whether the colors looked good together and to avoid wasting paints. Vincent and Theo had a great relationship, and the biggest source we have about Van Gogh is the correspondence between him and his brother. Most of what is known of Vincent's thoughts, views, and theories of art are recorded in the hundreds of letters they exchanged. After his brother Theo died, only 6 months after Vincent's death, Theo's wife, Jo Van Gogh, worked tirelessly to make Vincent known. Her passion to see famous Van Gogh's paintings appreciated passed down onto her son Vincent, and it culminated with the opening of the Van Gogh's Museum in 1973 in Amsterdam, a museum that now regularly receives more than 1.5 million visitors a year.
What an incredible story, Jack. The thing that strikes me the most is that during his whole life, no one except his brother appreciated his work.
Yes, I agree. His story is an example to keep creating, follow what you believe you are born to do, even when others disagree.
He struggled a lot throughout his life, facing many difficulties to be able to be an artist.
It took him a long time to summon up the courage to follow his call, but he kept practicing, learning, and searching for his personal style, with no money and only his great passion to fuel his dream.
As he once said, what would be life if we had no courage to attempt anything?
So be inspired and get creative.